Hey everyone, today we're going to be looking at keys to understanding the book of Revelations. This is a section in here that I'm going to be breaking up into several sections as it's quite lengthy, and they do break it down. So I will cover a couple little of the subsections in this one, and then we'll tackle the rest in another one. It'll probably take a few because it's a bit of a longer section. So one of the keys to remembering it, we're going to look at God's insight, who are wise people, some of the religious and political stuff. It all gets covered in this longer section here. It starts off with, why was the book of Revelations written? As mentioned before, the book's very name means to reveal, to unveil, to open, to understanding that what otherwise could not be comprehended. Yet most people believe that this final book in the Bible cannot be understood at all, and that's language in symbols that are far too confusing to make sense. Revelation puts many of the earlier prophecies of the Bible into an understandable context and reveals a much-needed framework for prophecies relating to the end of the age. It accomplishes this partly through the use of symbols and figurative language that relate directly to some of the Bible's other prophetic writings. For example, the prophetic book of Daniel uses similar language and symbols, which is something my pastor has been covering right now in church, is that book of Daniel and a lot of the intricacies of it and how it ties to the book of Revelation and end times. And so I find Daniel as well as Revelation very, very intriguing. They're both fascinating books. Ezekiel tackles some of it. Isaiah tackles some of it. So you see it tackled throughout many parts of the Bible, which helps to understand Revelation. Many of its visions and figures of speech are clearly explained, but God revealed to Daniel that the meanings of others were to remain mysteriously obscured until the end of time. Then they too would be understood. Revelation continues many fundamental keys to that understanding, and the book of Daniel contains keys that help us to understand the book of Revelation. Notice Daniel's explanation of one of his visions. Although I heard and I did not understand, then I said, "My Lord, what shall be the end of these things?" And he said, "Go your way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the end, to the time of the end." Daniel 12:8-9. And so that, so anybody who says they fully understand any of these books is wrong, because, we're missing key parts to it, to these visions that these people were given. So we can't grasp the whole full extent of it, because if we did, then we would know exactly what the end of that time would be, and God has said that no one will be able to guess that time of his coming. It'll be a surprise. Contrast this with God's purpose for the book of Revelation. God the Father gave the prophecies contained in the book of Revelation to his Son, Jesus Christ. He passed it to Christ in the form of a scroll sealed with 7 seals, Revelation 5:1. But as John, who wrote the book under God's inspiration, tells us in his concluding chapter, an angel specifically commanded him, "Do not seal the words of prophecy of this book." John explains that God the Father gave most of the book of Revelation to Christ in the form of a scroll sealed with 7 seals. Jesus then broke those seals and opened the scroll. And I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne, God the Father, a scroll written inside and on the back, sealed with 7 seals. Then I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the scroll and to loose its seals?" And no one in heaven or on the earth or under the earth was able to open the scroll or look at it. But one of the elders said to me, "Do not weep. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has prevailed to open the scroll and to loose its 7 seals." Here is the key to understanding the book. Jesus alone can unlock the meaning of its symbols, visions, and descriptions. The first verse of this book announces that it is the revelation of Jesus Christ. which God gave him, Revelation 1:1. Christ reveals its meaning. He unlocks its seals. But how does he do it? And that kind of shows us that, we can speculate on it, but we'll never actually know whether that speculation is right until we're already gone. We've been swept up and taken away by Jesus. Two factors are crucial. First, the keys to unlocking the content of 7 seals must be explained by Jesus himself in his own words. Second, the Bible tells us that all Scripture is given by inspiration of God, 2 Timothy 3:16. Therefore, we can expect clarification of some of the symbols in the book of Revelation in other parts of God's inspired word. By relying on the Bible's own consistent interpretations of its symbols and figurative language, we can have confidence that our understanding is based on God's inspired word rather than on our own opinions. 2 Peter 1:20. After all, revealed knowledge is what the book of Revelation is all about. Remember, God told Daniel that some of the things revealed to him in visions were sealed, hidden until the end of time. But then he added, "Many shall be purified, made white, and refined, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand." Daniel 12:10. At the time of the end, God intends that those he calls the wise will understand these prophecies. And I'm going to say something I've said before in my previous Revelations series on YouTube, that when I'm giving reference to these verses, and they're giving reference in the source that I'm using here, look up these verses, read the verses on either side of it, and try and study it a little bit more so that you can get some more context behind these verses and what they're referring to. Who are the wise in God's sight? Those who scorn the concept that the Bible is divinely inspired choose to see its symbols as contradictory and confusing. They perceive no value in them because they scoff at the idea of God's inspiration. They are blind to prophetic understanding. They choose to be ignorant of what God reveals about the future. So that's 2 Peter 3:3-7. And they don't want to understand it because they don't want to believe it's true. They have already decided ahead of time that they are not going to believe it. On the other hand, God tells us that those who respect him and keep his commandments are the ones who are truly wise. As the scriptures explain, the fear, respectful awe of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all those who do his commandments. Psalm 111:10. Scripture also tells us that the testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. Psalm 19:7. The book of Revelation gives us many of the keys that unlock prophetic understanding because it faithfully follows the principle that the Bible interprets itself. Therefore, only those who believe that the Bible is inspired by God and trust what it says will be able to understand the significance of what is revealed in the book of Revelation. Some of the understanding began in the days of the apostles. One of the stated purposes for Revelation was to reveal to its servants of God things which must shortly take place, Revelation 1:1. So some of the aspects of Revelation apply directly to Christians in the final days of the Apostle John's ministry. Christ instructed John to record the things which you have seen, his visions and the very puzzling symbols, the things which are, information relating to the church at that time, and the things which will take place after this, prophecies extending far into the future. After or before we examine these key features, we need to understand the circumstances under which this prophetic book was given to the Apostle John. So next we're going to be tackling some of the religion and political stuff behind it, as well as what the deceiver is, and a little bit about the day of the Lord and prophecy. So again, look up the verses that give you context behind these things that we're discussing, and do a little bit of study on your own. Don't just rely on my source, which is Beyond Today, or my own interpretations as well. Look up some of it on your own, and please do share these, as we are in times that people really need to be paying attention to this stuff and looking into it further. So thanks for listening, everybody, and please tune into the next one here.